Welcome everyone to the webinar. We are excited that you're joining us. We're going to get our intro slides put up and get started as people join us. We've got some really great presenters today that are going to go over a lot of information that hopefully you will find very useful for yourself and for your students. We're going to be talking about student success and hearing from offices across the state of Mississippi on how they support students once they get to college. So just a reminder that we are in webinar mode. We cannot see or hear you, but we do still want to engage with you. You can do so by utilizing the chat feature that you see at the bottom of your screen. If you have tech issues or need to directly ask the panelists something, and the Q&A feature at the bottom is where we ask that you drop your questions, so that way all the panelists can see them and monitor them as we go through the conversation today. So to start out with, as we welcome those who are joining us in traditional form, we've got a question, a poll question. So what does college retention mean to you? So I'm going to launch the poll. You'll see it show up on your screen that gives you some options. And if you'll vote on what does college retention mean to you. We'll be talking about student success and what retention is, what student success is, and a lot of different topics. We have some questions that were submitted beforehand from participants, from counselors all across the state. So we're excited to dig in today. All right, we've got a poll going on. There's only a couple of people who haven't voted. So if you're joining us, we have launched a poll asking, what does college retention mean to you? And we'll give it about 10 more seconds and we'll close and get started. Thanks for joining us today. It's the last of our Topic Tuesdays of the 2021 academic year. And so we're excited to end it with student success in college. All right, I'm going to end the poll and kind of look at the results. So actually, we pulled this definition. Every single one of these options are correct. And so we're going to talk about what exactly college retention is. I see the majority of people really thought heavily that the percent of a school's first year undergraduate students who will continue at that school next year, but it also factors in improving graduation rates, decrease in loss of tuition revenue from students either dropping out or moving to a different institution. And if you didn't know, and that's why you're joining this webinar, we're excited that you are here today. Shannon, I'll pass it over to you.
Great. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the webinar. I'm Shannon Grimsley, the Director of State Outreach for the Woodward Hines Education Foundation and the Get to College program. We are recording today's session and we'll send it in a link to anyone who is registered. For those watching the recording, today's date is May 4th, 2021, and the material in this webinar is current through the 2021 school year. In today's session, Student Success Offices and how they support students, you will hear from a panel of educators who work in the Student Success Offices at colleges and universities across the state. But before we get started, I would like to share a little background on Get to College and a few logistics about the webinar. Get to College is a nonprofit program of the Woodward Hines Education Center, or Woodward Hines Education Foundation. We have 3 centers in Mississippi, one here in Jackson, Ocean Springs, and another in South Haven. And we help parents, students, and high school counselors with all aspects of the college planning and financial aid process. And all of our services are 100% completely free. In our centers, we offer personalized college counseling appointments where we can tell students when to apply for admission and scholarships, help fill out their FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid, or advise on essay writing and interviewing skills. For this spring semester, we are continuing to offer all of our services in a virtual manner, and this includes the counselor webinar series and professional development opportunities, student and parent workshops, remote FAFSA completion, and two-way text messaging. During the webinar, as Kirsten mentioned, we cannot see or hear you, but we ask that you ask us questions through the Q&A or through the chat at any time. I will be moderating the panel today, and Kirsten Dufour, Assistant Director and Project Manager for Get to College, will be replying to the Q&A. You see here our agenda for the webinar. Like I said, we'll hear from our student success offices. We'll have the Q&A session, and then we'll wrap up with our contact information. I would now like to introduce today's panelist. Our first panelist is Jenny Lewton-Yates, and she is the Assistant Dean of Student Success at Millsaps College, where she is also an Assistant Professor of Greek and Roman Studies. She earned her BA from Ohio Wesleyan University and her PhD from Brown University, both in classics. She has held a variety of positions at Millsaps, including directing the One Campus, One Community program and the Wellsprings Living Learning Community for first-year students. She currently oversees the college's academic advising program, the care team, and retention initiatives, as well as continues to teach Latin, ancient Greek, and courses on ancient civilization. Jenny lives in Jackson with her husband, daughter, dog, and 2 cats. Our next panelist is Katie McBride. Katie serves as the director in the Center for Student Success at the University of Southern Mississippi. In her role, she ensures that college students at the university have access to a variety of programs that will help them thrive during their collegiate academic experience. Programs offered in the center focus on offering students support from their first day on campus until the day they graduate. Ms. McBride has 7 years of experience in higher education programming, including experience with recruiting, admissions, retention, first-year programs, and student success. Welcome, Katie. Kimberly Rush is our final presenter, and Kimberly is originally from Alabama. She earned a bachelor's degree in psychology from the University of West Alabama and a master's degree in clinical psychology from Alabama A&M University. She is a licensed professional counselor in Alabama and Mississippi, and her past career was in mental health and substance abuse as a therapist. Currently, she is the Director of Advising and Retention at Meridian Community College. She is married to Dr. James Rush, has 4 children, and enjoys spending time with family and watching mysteries. Welcome, Kimberly. So today's panel, or today's webinar, we are going to conduct in a panel style presentation. So I am going to ask all of our panelists, we have a series of questions for them today. So we'll just kind of get started with our panel. And as we go, I will ask these questions. I'm going to stop sharing our presentation for right now. So all of our presenters will be on the screen. So first of all, the first question, I want to kind of direct this to everyone, and y'all can just chime in, but how do the students find out about your services, and are they included in tuition, fees, and cost? And what other support services might be covered for them? You know, for example, math tutoring, writing center, mental health counseling. Kimberly, you want to start?
I'll start.
Yeah, sure.
So again, my name is Kimberly Rush, and I'm at MCC, and all of our services that we offer, be it mental health counseling, be it tutoring, all that is available as a student at MCC. So the best place, one, to find information about MCC is on our website. We have updated our website to make it as user-friendly. It is information overload, as most websites are for schools, but if you can call and talk to an advisor, we definitely can navigate you on our various programs and different services. We have contracted through Weems Mental Health Center, which is literally 2 miles from our main campus, and students are able to see a licensed therapist 4 sessions per calendar year, and that is free of charge. We also have a contract with Psychological Associates, where students can get a consultation over the phone for free if they aren't able to drive to Weems. One of our advisors on campus, Ms. Gina Mills, she also works very closely with Weems and with Psychological Associates to be able to be that link between being on campus and, of course, being at home. So Our first place to start is our website, and then we can definitely help navigate students to the right place after that. We do offer, of course, free tutoring for all students who are active. You can literally be in one class and get free tutoring through our Student Success Center, which is in the library.
Yeah, I guess so what I would add to that is, in addition to having great websites, I think another place where students can get a lot of this great information is by going to admission events that colleges are going to host. So lots of times the undergraduate admissions offices are going to invite kind of key first-year offices and programs to participate in those. So you'll often see the Center for Student Success at admissions events throughout the state. And then another huge place to learn about the services and programs for new students, especially, is at orientation. Our offices are going to be represented at summer orientation, doing presentations about what services are offered and how they can get connected. Like Kimberly has mentioned, all of our resources for students are going to be free or included in the cost of tuition, essentially. And I think that's pretty much going to be the case across the board. At a larger state institution, you might see some things like, in addition to tutoring, you might see some really specific things like a writing center, a speaking center, even specific tutoring in different areas within the different departments. So some institutions are going to have a centralized tutoring office. Other institutions, the student may actually have to do some research on their own and find out, okay, maybe I have to go through the department that offers this course, or reach out directly to my professor and see if they have some information that they can give me.
I would also add, once you're on campus, that you're in orientation, and also many colleges have a first-year experience course that carries you through as sort of an orientation that keeps on going, because we know that in that 1 or 2 days of orientation, that's just so much information to absorb. You can't handle all of it at once and remember it. So you keep getting introduced to these resources that are available for you as you continue through that semester. And Millsaps, we call it Foundations, but it's called something different at all of the different colleges. So we keep introducing that resource. Your own personal academic advisor is a wonderful place to go to ask where you can get connected to these resources that are included in your tuition. Mental health support, all of these tutoring supports at the Writing Center, at the Academic Support Center. We call it CASE on our campus, but again, it has different names wherever you go. Also, most campuses have a health center, so that we're supporting your mental health needs, but you're going to get strep throat. Where are you going to go if you're wondering if you have COVID, and how do you navigate that sort of situation? All of these things we can, the Student Support Center is not necessarily the place where the resources live, but we're the place that gets you connected to where all of the resources live. And we have posters, I'm sure you all do too, on campus that remind you, if you don't know where we are, they can help you find where we are.
Great, thank you. So the next question, and I'll let you start this time, Jenny, but this question is for all of you. What service is the most frequently offered, and is there something, a service that's offered specifically for incoming freshmen?
All of our students really need all of the services, but I think for first year students, they really need sort of just that navigational help, the wayfinding. Where do I do this? And so I find when I have conversations with first years, it's really not the big in-depth problems that they're having yet. It's just that I don't know how I get a parking pass. I don't know how I register for classes. And so it's really that sort of first touch point connection where they don't know who else to ask, so they come and ask me, that I'm really there for the first years in that capacity. And at least on our campus, their own individual academic advisors are working in that capacity as well. Though again, this first year experience course that goes throughout that whole first semester and orientation are specifically designed to help first year students get used to what it's like to be on a campus. All of our campuses come in different shapes and sizes. Katy is at a much bigger, we could probably fit like 5 Millsaps campuses in Katy's campus, right? So depending on where you're going to school, the way you navigate your campus is going to be different. And so we all have experiences that are geared to get first years ready to navigate the ins and outs, right? Registering for classes at Meridian Community College is going to look different than registering for classes for me. And so when someone transfers from Meridian to Millsaps, we help them navigate the difference between their registration system and our registration system. And that's what we're really all about, is helping them make their way in whatever new environment they're coming from, whether it's high school to college or one college to another college.
Yeah, Jenny is 100% correct. I really think it is, especially in the first year, about finding either an individual or an office or a community that can help you kind of get the answers that you need. One of the programs at Southern Miss that we offer every semester for students, and we really kind of target first year students, is it's called academic coaching, but it may be called something completely different at another institution. But students who apply and get into the program are paired with essentially an academic mentor. And those mentors are faculty, staff, and graduate assistants, and they meet several times throughout the semester. There are specific skills that we focus on that are really important for first year, like time management, knowing how to study, consuming, more complex information, but a lot of it is also just like general guidance and advice. I don't know how to do this process. How can you help me do that? I don't know how to read my my DPR, my degree program report. Is there someone that can help me with that? So I think for any student kind of transitioning right out of high school into college or to a new institution, look for a program like that, where you're not just going to have to, you're going to have somebody designated on campus for you that you can go and talk to. A lot of institutions, you're going to have an academic advisor, and you're going to have an advisor that can kind of fill that role. And if that's that person for them, great. Or if the academic advising model is different, or you're looking for a different kind of mentor, look for something like a coaching program or a success program that's going to provide that really one-on-one support for the student.
Just to piggyback off of what Jenny and Katie said, I completely agree. We do have advisors at MCC, so depending on what your program of study is, we're moving away from majors, especially on the community college level. But depending on what your program of study is, you do have what I have to call a person. And so your person is a person that you would go to help you evaluate your degree plan, to help you evaluate, hey, will these classes transfer to Millsaps or to USM, just to make sure that you're on the right track. First generation, well, all college students really need someone to say, hey, this is what I have going on. What supports do you have? I mean, there's so many hidden gems across Mississippi in the college realm that students don't know about. And honestly, and sometimes it's too late. And so what our goal is when students are coming to, over the summer to get registered for classes, and students are tapping into orientation and are coming to different activities on campus, is that they meet with their advisor. They get to know their advisor, so that if something happens, that they'll have someone to go to say, hey, this is what I have going on, Ms. McClellan. This is what I have going on, Ms. Hobson. What do you suggest? And say, oh, did you know that we have this to be able to do this? And they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't have a clue. And so the most important thing, what I really, really, really want to encourage our incoming students to do is to definitely utilize their advisor, and our advising model, of course, has moved to an intrusive advising. And what that involves is just more than just putting you in 5 classes, making sure you're full-time, making sure you get financial aid, and then off you go. We want to know the background. How has COVID impacted you? What are the barriers that you have from doing well this semester? What are the plans right now before those barriers come? What are those plans that we have in place? Be it tutoring, be it maybe not be full-time. Be it you have a job and you're working, 20, 25 hours. Is that the best plan? Or what else can you do to help support your family? So just making sure that we address, we help students address those issues, hopefully before they happen.
Great. Well, Kimberly, my next question is actually for you. We're going to kind of round robin. Not everybody's going to answer every question. But Kimberly, what programs do y'all have, if any, that support first generation students?
One, we up until last year, we had the QEP. the quality enhancement plan. But what we found was every student needs a QEP, who comes to college. Let's be honest about it, especially students who come to MCC. All students need intrusive advising. All students need someone to talk to them about managing their time. That is a huge one that students struggle with. Communication. How do I send my professor an email? How do I get in contact with someone? Hey, my financial aid doesn't get processed until September, and I didn't realize that, and I'm not working anymore, and there's a lack in food, or I have a need for whatever the issue is. What do I do? And so our goal is to ask those questions behind the scenes to be able to help support our students, because those are the issues generally that don't retain students. Generally speaking, it's not, I don't like school. It's generally speaking, I want to be in school, but I have this and this and this going on. And so one of the questions that our advisors ask is, okay, so you understand how your classes will lead you to this degree. Yes, ma'am. You know how you're doing this because of this. Yes, ma'am. So what are the barriers behind the scenes? Are you a single parent? If your daycare, sadly, this is the world that we live in, my daycare shut down for 6 months. I could work from home. What is your plan of action? Do you have someone, to help keep your child or your children, when school, have you talked to your professors ahead of time? Are you able to do Zoom until, daycare reopens, whatever the case may be. And so one of the things that we definitely do to support our first generation students and all of our students is to make sure we ask the questions behind just, okay, you have a schedule. Oh, okay, you good. Are you good? We have a lot of students also that want to take online classes but don't have laptops, or think that they can be successful, on an iPad or an iPhone. Well, you can't be successful in an online class on an iPad or an iPhone. Students don't know that though. And so making sure they understand, do you have a laptop? Does it work? Can you do Zoom? Can you do Canvas? Because you may have a laptop, but it's an older laptop that may not have capability to be able to do the class efficiently and effectively. Okay, so your iPad works, your phone, your laptop works right now, but you said it's getting kind of old. What is your plan? Thankfully, we will be on campus, starting in the fall semester. Yay! But it's very important, just because as they say, COVID's not going anywhere. It's very important just to be able to begin thinking about those things ahead of time, so that when they happen, we don't really freak out. We have a plan. Okay, I talked to my advisor. I can email this. I can do this, and so that we can prevent the breakdowns from happening.
Thank you. Jenny, this next question is for you. What programs do you have that support minority students on your campus?
It's a great question. As a primarily white institution at PWI, it's really important that we have support structures in place for students of minoritized identity groups. And so we have several of those, and this is the case at all institutions, right? And they come with different names across different institutions, but we have a group, I really love the name of this one. It's the Male Empowerment Network, right? So it's an acronym, so it spells out MEN. Right, and this is a student-generated group. They came together. They approached our dean of students and a bunch of our Black male students, and they said, we would like to get together to support each other through navigating this institution. And they support each other through mentorship programs. They hold each other academically accountable. They do social events. They have an academic mentoring buddy system. And we have several groups across campus that work kind of on this model. And I suspect that Katie could list off several on her campus that work this way too. We have groups for LGBTQ plus identifying students. And the bigger your institution, the more sort of specialized these groups are going to be. And this goes for minority students, but this goes for all students. It's really important to find your niche when you go to college, right? So you haven't had a chance to hear much more about me other than I have a dog and 2 cats, but I'm a big nerd, right? So I haven't gotten a chance to say this, but May the 4th be with you, right? Like, it's Star Wars Day, people. But for me, when I went to college, it was incredibly important that I find my fellow nerds, right? It's having a sense of belonging in whatever group you would like to belong with, whether it's people who share similar cultural lived experiences with you, or people who want to have you wear Princess Leia buns over your ears. Whatever group you want to be with, it's important that we have these support systems on our campuses, whether you're living on campus, whether you're commuting to campus. And so finding your people, right? Just like you were talking about finding your person who's in your academic advising sense, but finding your people who you can go to and be like, yeah, let's have a Star Wars party today. Or, I really felt like that class discussion was offensive to me. Can I talk about it with someone who's going to understand? Both of these things are equally important. And so wherever we go, it's important that students have those spaces that they can let down their hair in, and they can feel fully heard and seen and appreciated for who they are. That's an excellent question. Thanks.
All right, and anybody who wants to answer this next question, what financial education is provided to students who receive need-based aid like the Pell Grant, or if they get behind on payment plans? Many times first-generation students don't understand the different types of financial aid being offered. We here at Get to College, if we see them early enough, we're trying to break down those barriers. But we know many of those students get to your campuses and maybe haven't seen us or talked to us or talked to a financial advisor. So what do y'all do? Is there any sort of education with the financial aid offices through your office to explain to them the free aid versus loans and those sorts of things? Because we know that's a huge barrier, right? We know that's a huge retention issue, right? The financial aspect. So anybody that wants to pipe in on that, feel free to.
Yeah, I'll go. I would encourage any student to look for any kind of financial literacy program that their institution offers. And there will probably be multiple offices on campus that discuss those things. The other thing that I would say is if you're going to an orientation that offers some kind of financial workshop or meeting opportunity, go to that and talk to your university representatives. So for example, at Southern Miss at orientation, students can set up one-on-one appointments while they're at orientation with a financial aid advisor and sit down and look at their individual financial aid package for the institution, ask questions, figure out, is there a gap here? What am I going to owe? What am I expected to pay? How do I enroll in a payment plan? And really get that very clear information. But not everybody does that. And that's the reality. Not everybody makes that appointment, takes advantage of that opportunity. So for Southern Miss, we have a financial literacy program through our undergraduate scholarship office called the Flight Program that hosts events throughout the year to really hone in on some of these really specific pieces. Any student can participate in the Flight Program. They have financial literacy ambassadors who share a lot of information on social media. But then, the other thing for first generation students is we try to identify them really early on at Southern Miss and get them plugged into some resources that are going to help them. I mentioned TRIO as a really great resources for first gen students in the chat. But at our institution, we have a living learning community for first gen students, and they take a student success course, really like what Jenny was talking about, that's specifically for first gen students. And one of the first things that we do with those students in the very first week of class is talk about how is college different from high school? And that is one of the key things that we focus on. College costs money. You're paying to be here. High school, in most cases for you, was free. How are you paying for that? What is a loan versus what is a grant versus what is a scholarship? What are the different kinds of loans that you're being offered? Understanding what payment looks like, when you can get deferment, what it looks like when you're coming out of college. So, I would just say, look for programs that offer that kind of information. If you go to these websites of these institutions that you're looking at, whether it's Southern Miss, whether it's Millsaps, whether it's Meridian Community College or some other institution, and just search for like financial literacy, chances are there's going to be a program at an institution that covers that information.
Thank you so much. This next question, I think is very important. As I said earlier, we asked these questions. We developed this list of questions through our college access advisors and also high school counselors. So this kind of came up in every group. So Katie and Kimberly, I'm going to kind of address these to you because I know Jenny, Millsaps is so small that I know that most students have a pretty a good relationship with at least one person on the campus, right, who can track them down. But what intervention steps and our services are offered to students who are a retention risk? For example, do professors or teaching assistants contact freshmen who don't show up, and do wellness check-ins like high school counselors do? And then the second part of it was, what safeguards are put into place to identify students who might be at risk of dropping out or who might be failing classes?
So one of the things that we do, yes, our professors can initiate a text message or an automated phone call or an email. So our system is set up to where when our instructors put attendance in, because we do take attendance at MCC, put their attendance in and it indicates as absent, a message automatically gets sent to the student. Their EagleNet account, if we have their phone number, we'll send it to them through via text message and a phone call, saying that they were missed from class. And so when that happens, and we're purchasing software to actually even more improve this, when that happens, that message will also get sent to their advisor. And so we can check up on them, because students, a lot of times, let's be real about it, they'll hide out from their instructor, but we may see them walking down to get something to eat in the cafeteria or down the hall. And so we can say, hey, Johnny, I see that you weren't in class. Hey, what's going on? And so we definitely have that way to alert us when they first begin, because again, if you've missed one class and you hadn't been caught up with, then it makes it easier to miss more and more classes. One of the things we also do is that students who meet certain have certain criteria, so to speak, we definitely address those first. So one, a student comes into our office and they're getting advised into classes and they're taking intermediate courses because of their ACT score. We definitely have a system in place to where we email those students monthly just to check in. Hey, how are classes going? What's going on? Your major is this. Are things going well? Do you want to change your mind? A lot of times students, start in August with the, gung ho, I want to be a doctor, I want to be an engineer. But, halfway through that first semester, wait a second now. We have a lot of career tech options at the community college, so we can say, hey, well, you don't have to be this, but how have you thought about, instead of being a doctor, you can be an RN? And that is a reputable profession, and helping them navigate, what does that look like? We also have it set in place so if a student gets a certain grade on a test, it will alert their advisor and also our tutors on our campus. And so if a student scores, say, a 70 or below, or 75 and below on a paper, whatever, then a message will be automatically sent to their advisor recommending them to go to tutoring. And then also it will be sent to the tutor. So the tutor can follow up with the student and say, hey, JoJo, I see you didn't do so well on your test. Come and see me. Here are ours. And so if JoJo goes, it'll be like a link back to their instructor and to us if they go, so they can get kudos. And we definitely want to, track the student as they travel through campus and making sure that each of our departments know what's going on.
Yeah, I would say that's going to be the case across the board at most institutions. These days, it's pretty typical for higher education institutions to have some kind of platform or homegrown system, even where they're tracking different kinds of risk factors, whether it's class attendance, whether it's grades, whether it's missed assignments, and then flags get raised on those students. And who responds to those students is going to depend entirely on the institution. So here we in the Center for Student Success, our staff each has kind of a designated group of freshmen that we track and follow up with those students throughout as they have different indicators, whether it's during the first week they're not attending class, or whether it's during interim grades and we see things maybe kind of sliding a little bit. So at the Center for at the University of Southern Mississippi, it's the Center for Student Success who follows up with those first year students. It could be academic advisors at another institution. It could be first year course instructors at another institution. But I think that you'll find that, yes, there are probably plans or processes in place at any institution that a high school student is considering to follow up when a student has a risk factor. And then there might even be a committee that deals with more serious concerns. So a CARES program or something like that, where if a professor notices that, okay, a student hasn't been coming to class, but I think there's even more going on with this student, then they can refer that student to a group like CARES at Southern Miss, who will review that information, reach out to the student confidentially and say, we understand there may be something else going on. We want to meet with you and talk about what resources are available.
Katie and Kimberly, there's a question from a participant that asked, what platform are you using for early alert?
At Southern Miss, we use kind of a combination of two systems. We have Canvas, which is kind of our institutional online system, but then we within Canvas have a system called Dropout Detective that tracks things like course attendance, course submission, when they're logging in. And we can use that information to raise flags and reach out to students. So ours is kind of a two-pronged process. But there's other programs out there that have one big platform that does all of that for them.
Same thing for us as well. Of course, we use Canvas. We also had our own homegrown, as Katie said, EAS, Emergency Early Alert System, to where it was, of course, based on attendance and based on grades. We also, as I mentioned, are purchasing software. Thank God for COVID money, right? Our purchasing software to be able to help streamline the process to bring everything more together, rather than having this does this and this does that, which can definitely be, cumbersome from a lot of us. So it's called Sage, Advisor Track, Tutor Track. We're actually in the process of purchasing that, and that will be all a go come August.
Awesome.
We don't currently use software other than the built-in attendance tracker that comes with the Aleutians colleague. Most of our early alert is done with an email address that can be checked by multiple people. But we have a very small student body in comparison to what Southern Miss is dealing with, or even Meridian.
So Jenny, all of these issues lead into that big word, retention, right? And I know that you are, or I understand you are the retention specialist on your campus. So how do you track retention, and how important is retention to colleges and universities? I know when I started in college admission, I really didn't understand how important retention was. It was like, get the class in, but you really didn't understand the importance of retention. So how do y'all track that, and how important is retention to the life of a college and university?
We track it, retention overall, we track pretty slowly. You have to sort of wait for every new semester to come in. And then we have what's called a census date, where you, through the records office, take a head count of everyone who is back and registered for a semester. And then you can see the size of your class from semester to semester, and you can see who's back, and you can see what your graduation rate is looking like in a cycle. And you see the numbers coming in. You see, how many of our first years who were here in the fall didn't make it back for the following fall. I track data in a smaller, more nuanced amount, because we have a smaller student body. When a professor tells me that a student has told them they're thinking about transferring, or they're thinking about dropping out entirely and not doing anything next semester, I follow up with that student internally, so that I kind of have a sense of who will and will not be back in the following year. Because every student matters, right? Every student matters to the institution as a whole, because we want graduation rates to be high. We want our returning student rates to be high. But it's more than that. That's the sort of institutional picture. But it matters to me on an individual and a moral level, because I want every student to be the most successful person that they can be. Now, sometimes that does mean that a student decides that we're not the right fit for them, that what they really do want is a school where there's going to be a huge blowout football game every week. And that means that we're not the right fit for them. Now, that might mean, if I were Katie, if we flip-flopped, that I would be helping someone transfer from the large school to the small school, because what they really want is a very small discussion-based class every week. And that's what we offer on a regular basis, right? So retention to me means both looking out for the overall health of the institution by keeping graduation rates high, keeping returning student rates high, but it also means helping each student be the most successful that they possibly can. I had a student last year who got to college, who did okay in classes. His grades were good, but he was in my office and he said, I just really want to fix diesel engines. And I said, you know what, man, then let's get you transferred to somewhere where we can have you learn how to fix diesel engines, right? We're not going to be the best fit for everyone. My job is to help them find where their success is, right? And so for me, sometimes I think we get caught up in this retention word. And what I really like to do is the student success part of retention, right? So if we make every student successful, I think we will have better retention if we keep focused on that. And the rest will just fall into place as we aim for that.
So this is kind of a follow-up to that, and you touched on it a little bit, but what's the most difficult circumstances to help a student overcome when thinking about retention issues? Is it finances, mental health, family, personal? What are you seeing the most when it comes to retaining a student?
It's all across the board, right? And it's every student is an individual, and everyone who walks in my office has a unique set of factors, and they're often overlapping factors, right? Personal problems, family problems are often coinciding with the financial issue. Academic struggles are often coinciding with the mental health challenge, right? So you can't, getting them to pull apart and go into nice little silos is often impossible. Some of these are easily addressed, right? If it's really just an academic issue, then we can get you a tutor. We can retake a class. We can go back over the layers. If it's a mental health challenge and we get appropriate supports and medical interventions in place, I've seen students do wonderful turnarounds and come back and say, wow, I didn't realize I needed a counselor, and really just do so much. The one thing that we really can't move the needle on is finances, right? I can't conjure up a winning lottery ticket for my students. And that's the one that really breaks my heart the most, because I can connect you to a counselor who can connect you to the right supports and medications if necessary. I can connect you to academic resources. But if you don't have a firm plan in place, if you don't understand your grants and loans, et cetera, as Katie was outlining, if you don't know what 4 years of paying for college looks like, then there's really not so much that I can do. So for me, that's sort of the biggest, most insurmountable challenge, though it's not, it doesn't have to be an impossible one. Sometimes there are different options for students. Sometimes they find an uncle who's willing to co-sign a loan at the last minute. But that's the one that I wish that I just had an endless supply of money to just dole out to folks.
Exactly. That kind of leads us into our next question, which is for you, Kimberly. What resources do you need to be able to provide to students that maybe you feel like you don't have right now?
Well, Jennifer hit the nail on the head. Money. There's no, in the backyard of MCC or at my house or anywhere, I have not found a tree yet. And students, do need it. Years and years ago, I remember when I was in school, we were told, we were encouraged to go to community college because in essence, the idea of it is it should be free, but the cost of education, has increased so much that students are finding, a balance even after their Pell Grant has been exhausted. So resources that I definitely need is money. Another resource is the student, because a lot of times with not having the student, You know, when things do happen, you're not able to say, hey, did you know you qualify for this scholarship? Or have you talked to financial aid about this? Or have you, work study? Just different things like that. Students, a lot of times, students, when things happen, they hide out, they drop off the map, which makes everything 10 times worse. I mean, I can text you, I can call you, I can send a smoke screen out, I can offer you candy. If you don't show up, we can't tell you what we know, and we can't point you in the right direction if you don't reach back out to us. And so, for me, I found that increasing, especially during COVID, when everyone is at home and is supposed to be hiding out, it has become increasingly difficult to reach out, to the students and help them be aware. And so I wish we had money, and I wish that, our students would utilize the resources that we have on campus, which we have, we have so many. And I do feel confident to say now, as Jenny noted, we can't, there's no tree in the backyard of MCC. We can't find $2,000, but we can put our heads together and come up with something else to maybe get a plan in place, or, make better until you get that paid off. Then what's your plan, for the December break, to catch up your balance and then be able to re-enroll, and things like that. But the resource is the student, and then the money tree that I'm still waiting to get planted in the backyard.
Great. Well, if y'all find that, let me know. We are going to move on to the topic of, because we have about, looks like we have about 10 to 12 minutes left, and I got a couple of questions I want to hit y'all with. So I'm going to kind of combine two, we all know that failing classes lead to academic probation, right? So tell us, and anybody can chime in on this, but tell us about how academic probation is handled on your campus and what supports are given to a student who find themselves in this situation. And is it early too? Does it happen pretty early?
So, for example, at USM, a student can find themselves on academic probation after their first semester. So at USM, anyone who has less than a 2.0 cumulative GPA is placed on academic probation. It can have all kinds of impacts on financial aid, on scholarships, on courses that they need to take or retake, depending on whether the classes that they did not do well in are prerequisites for different things in their major. As far as how it's handled, it's going to vary by institution, but at USM, those students are all going to be contacted either by their academic advisor or their faculty advisor, depending on whether they're a first-year student or a returning student. And they're going to have to go through an academic improvement plan, where essentially they're going to have to sit down and talk about what went wrong, what skills need to be addressed and developed, and kind of create a plan for the next semester. And then from there, that plan gets submitted to the school director and approved. As long as the student's on an academic improvement plan, they're probably going to be able to continue at Southern Miss and probably at most institutions. But once you get beyond that first semester, it does become harder and harder to continue, because your financial aid is getting impacted. You might not be getting as much aid or scholarships because you're not making satisfactory academic progress. And it will become hard to dig yourself out of that academic hole once you've gotten several semesters under your belt. If you do, I think it's, if you do get up to 2 consecutive semesters of academic probation at Southern Miss, you'll get placed on suspension, and you have to sit out a full semester before you can come back.
Yeah, and I think, Katie, too, with high school counselors being on here, remember that for students to keep their Help Grant from the state of Mississippi, which we know is a game changer for many underserved students, 2.5 GPA, and they check it every semester. Yeah. So when those students lose that,
yeah, I'm sure I'm not alone in having had Help Grant students in my office at the end of the semester going, I can't pay for college anymore. And it's really heartbreaking and it's really tough. So the plan for those students is, okay, what can we piece together for the next semester so that you can come back and we can get you back into a place where you can be in good standing and apply for reinstatement of your grant.
Right. And we have those in our office every semester too, Katie. And it's like you said, it's really heartbreaking, because that for many students, for many under-resourced students, that's the only way they can especially attend a 4-year university for sure. Any other comments on academic probation any differently than what Katie said?
No, ours looks very similar, except we call it an academic success plan instead of an academic improvement plan. But the steps that would be involved in one of those are typically a written agreement that the student is going to attend class. You're probably hearing a theme here that like the student showing up is important, right? That the student will engage the free tutoring services, that the student will respond to emails, all of the good behaviors that we sort of take for granted, we have to spell out for the student and require them to do. I see many students get off of academic probation. It's not a sentence for the end of your academic career. But once a student hits that next layer, the suspension layer, that's when things start looking very bleak for them. And so if you know someone who's hit the probation, it's not the end of the line. But it does mean buckling down and getting serious. And the other thing to know is that academic probation also often has negative consequences for student athletes. That if you are not in good academic standing with the school, you are not in good academic standing with your team. And we have very many students who come here explicitly to play sports and be students at the same time. And when that athletic piece is taken away from them, they're absolutely crushed. And so if that's a motivating factor, if you want to be on the soccer field, you want to be on the football field, you've got to keep up your academics early on.
That's just to piggyback off that. You guys pretty much do the same thing, and we do the same thing at MCC. The only thing we recommend, of course, the students who are put on probation, we recommend them definitely those failed courses is to retake those, because at the community college, of course, the F, the failed grade goes away and the higher grade does prevail, which definitely helps students to get above the 2.0 the next semester. We put our students on a plan as well. So pretty much what Jenny and Katie said, we do the same thing. And the most important thing is, as we continue to say, and we cannot stress enough, is the showing up. Just the showing up will literally handle about 80% of the issues, because if you're showing up, then we can see you. You're asking questions, where you're getting good sound advice. And so we definitely want to encourage our students to definitely show up.
All right, I got 2 more questions on the docket for y'all in the last 6 minutes. So we had a question come in, and it overlaps with one that we had on our script. Academics are important, but so is social life. How do you encourage students to remain engaged in campus activities and or organizations? Can I throw that one to you, Katie, since you're such a big campus there with lots of student organizations, I'm sure?
Sure. I mean, that's a big part of what we talk about again with students at orientation in their first year. Is that's a conversation, is how important it is to find your community. And Jenny did a great job of describing that earlier when talking about needing to find her nerd group. Like, that is an important part of retention. We can provide all of these services, we can provide all of this support, but if a student hasn't found their community of peers to engage with, the likelihood of them staying decreases. And so that begins again at orientation. We have involvement fairs at every single one of our orientations, where pretty much all of our student organizations attend. We have over 200 student organizations at Southern Miss. It's going to vary again by institution. And so the idea there is to talk to students about why it's important to connect, and to get them connected really early on, so that they are talking to students that are interested in the same things that they are interested in. At those involvement fairs, we really try to get the students to represent their organization. So it's not somebody like me. We advise a first-gen student organization on campus, but I don't want to be the one at the student involvement fair talking about Eagle First. I want my Eagle First exec team to be there talking about why this program is so important to them. And so students who participate kind of go make connections at orientation, and then continue to make those connections and get engaged. But most institutions are going to have some kind of like involvement fair at the beginning of every single semester, where students can go and learn about student organizations. And also there's probably going to be an involvement or leadership office at an institution that, if you don't make it to the involvement fair, or going to an involvement fair and kind of introducing yourself and putting yourself out there makes you uncomfortable, you can go and meet with the involvement office and they can help connect you one-on-one with those student organizations. In addition to fit, finding that group that's important, the other thing that we really stress to students is the reality is that students who are involved do tend to be more academically successful. They have peers who are keeping them accountable, making sure they're going to class, helping them, maybe there's an upperclassman in one of their student organizations that has had that professor before or had that class before, so can give them advice. So those are the two things that we think are really important in talking about an involvement, knowing how to get involved and then the benefits of involvement. So it's not just saying like make friends, it's more than that.
All right, this is our final question, and I want you all to leave our high school counselors and teachers and administrators who are on here. One of the questions that they ask is, what can our staff and high school counselors know about helping incoming freshmen with the adjustment to college? From what you observed, are there conversations, practices, or tips that when shared would have been helpful in making students' adjustment easier? So on their side of things, what can they be telling students to try and make that adjustment easier? And these are your parting words to them.
I think one thing that I would say is that there's no such thing as a perfect college student. Every single student, no matter their background, is going to struggle with something in their first year. So just encouraging them to know that, if they do slip up, to find the resources that are going to help them and get connected. And like has been said, don't hide when there's an issue. Because you've made a mistake once doesn't mean that you don't belong in college or that you don't belong at that institution. It means you're a first-year college student, you're figuring things out.
I would definitely piggyback off there. When they're talking to anyone on campus, it's just to be open and honest in their communication. Because, as I tell, our students, we cannot read minds. We don't know, what's going on unless you tell us. And so, we have a lot of students who will start down a path, as Katie said, and then, get derailed a little bit. That is common. That's actually supposed to happen. That's just part of navigating college, becoming an adult, and all those things are natural and commonplace. But the key definitely is to reach out, and hey, I wanted to do this, but I'm thinking about something else. What do you think of that? And so we can have those open and honest conversations on what that looks like. What does that look like for this semester and for future semesters? So if I could say anything, just please encourage our students to be open and honest in their communication with their advisors.
I would say that the more you can impress upon them that when they step foot on campus, it is their 4 years to gear up and practice being a grown-up. And that means a couple things. It means showing up for their classes, their appointments, their practices, their advising sessions, like they're showing up for a job. And it means communicating with their faculty and the staff on campus via email communication, like they're communicating in a job. That mom or dad or grandma or whoever has been doing this for them during high school is not there to do it. And if they don't pay dedicated grown-up attention to these details, they're going to miss important things. Registration deadlines, financial aid deadlines, assignment deadlines, and they're going to miss out. Their grades will suffer. They're going to miss fun, amazing party opportunities. Like all of these things are important. And it's all on them. And it's okay to screw up. And we are a soft place to land. But this is the great practice opportunity for 4 years. And the more intentional they can be about that practice before they reach graduation, the better of an experience and the more successful that they're going to be with us.
Right. Thank you all so much. I know as a parent of a high school senior, this has made me feel so much better to know, as Jenny said, there is always a soft place to land, right? In these colleges and universities. And students are going to screw up, right? But y'all are there to pull them up and help them. So thank you so much for all your words today. I think we addressed all the questions that were in the chat. If y'all want to drop your emails in the chat while I wrap up for any of these folks to contact you, that would be great. So thank y'all so much for participating. This was very informative and helpful. We will email out a recording of this webinar in the next couple of days and post it on our YouTube channel. We would appreciate it if you would complete the short survey that will automatically pop up at the end of this meeting. Please fill it out and give us feedback on today's webinar so that we can keep improving next fall and spring. Today was our last webinar of the 2021 school year, and we look forward to continuing this webinar series for the next school year. If you have any suggestions of topics that you would like covered in the next school year, please email me or call me and let me know your suggestions. I will be, counselors, working on completing all of the CEU information for participants, and I'll be emailing that out to all of you at the end of this week. So look for that to come from me. If you have participated in 5 webinars, and this includes both fall and spring, you will have the opportunity to apply for 0.5 CEUs. And if you have participated in 10 webinars, you will have the opportunity to apply for 1 full CEU. And again, like I said, the CEU opportunity covers both the fall and spring. So again, we are continuing to build our summer and fall calendars at Get to College. So we don't have any upcoming activities to post up on the screen as of yet, but we are working on our summer opportunities and our fall opportunities for counselors, teachers, and educators. So continue to check our website and social media channels throughout the end of the school year and summer for upcoming training opportunities and student and parent workshop offerings. We will be updating this as we continue to plan. If you have any questions, you can reach any of the panelists at the emails that they provided there on the screen. And I think at the end of 10 webinars, most of you know how to contact us here at Get to College. So again, thank you very much, and we hope you have a great rest of your week, and we will see you soon.